So, not getting a response, Eka decided to just wait it out, basically. And so he stood in the snow all night. And it said that in the morning, the snow was piled up around his knees, but he was still standing there. And finally, Bodhidharma acknowledged him and said, "What is it that you want?" And Eka said, "I've come for the Dharma." And Bodhidharma reviled him and said, "You, with your puny efforts, want the Dharma, whereas the old masters, ground the marrow in their bones to dust in order to gain it." I mean, consider what Eka had already done, standing out all night in the snow, which is quite a feat. And Eka, realizing that something more was necessary, took out his sword and cut off his right arm at the elbow and presented that to Bodhidharma. Now, first of all, I think we need to be very careful about taking these things literally. We should not take these things literally. Chances are he would not have survived if he had physically done that up in the remote mountains. But what we get is this sense of a supreme effort, that he was willing to sacrifice everything. And this obviously did the trick. So Bodhidharma said to him, "Well, what is it that you actually have come for?" And Eka said, "Well, my heart is not at rest. Please pacify my heart, or please put my heart to rest." And this already shows that, in fact, Eka had done a considerable amount of training, because he knew that his problem was that his heart was not at rest. For most of us, we tend to think that it's not me that's the problem, or the heart that's the problem. It's the world that's the problem, If only the world was different. If only, my boss recognized just how good I am. If only, my partner treated me with the respect I feel I deserve. If only the world recognized my talents, etc., then I would be perfectly happy. That's what's wrong. It's the world that's wrong. So we're very sort of, outwardly focused into the world. But if we look at the Buddha's teachings going right the way back to the Four Noble Truths, this is not what the Buddha says at all. When the Buddha, in that second Noble Truth, asks what is the cause of suffering, the answer that he gives is, variously attachment, really, craving or desire. But really, what he's pointing to is this attachment to what I want, what I don't want, my opinions, my expectations, my views, and that I give all these things supremacy in a world where really, the world is vast and I am tiny by comparison. And if I set myself against the world, well, it's pretty obvious who's going to come off the worst in that battle. And the Buddha said that this way of seeing, of splitting myself, seeing myself as separate from the world and giving myself supremacy in it, along with every other I who also lives in the world who's doing the same thing, well, little wonder that we don't really get on terribly well a lot of the time. Particularly when I am continually asserting myself, or asserting my selfish needs, really, and my asserting myself as always the supreme thing. If it's not possible to, put that I in the back seat from time to time, then really we're not going to get on terribly well, and we're also going to suffer as a consequence. And clearly Eka not only knew this intellectually, which, we can all understand it intellectually up to a point, but more than that, he had realized it. He realized that this was the truth, and but the problem was that didn't solve the problem of his restless heart. That the heart is always looking, for the next thing. If only I can get, if only such and such was the case, then everything would be all right. And so, having come to that point, this was his problem. This is what he recognized as his problem. So Bodhidharma said to him, "Well, in that case, bring me this heart that is restless, and I will pacify it for you." And presumably Eka went off and sat meditation to look for this heart. that was always, restless. But the thing is that in meditation, when we're really looking, when we really give ourselves into that looking, then what we find is that because the heart becomes very concentrated, suddenly there's no room for anything else, and that heart vanishes. And he realized that he couldn't find this heart, and so he went back to Bodhidharma and said this. And Bodhidharma said, "You see, I've pacified this heart for you already." At which point, well, in fact, Eckhart had already, well, by the time Eckhart had gone back to him, clearly Eckhart had seen the point, had recognized that if the heart is allowed to be dissolute, and if I am constantly following, every little want and thought that sort of pops up, and cannot let go of those, and as it were, practice restraint in the body, then yes, the heart leads us on a merry dance. But if it is possible to let go, and if we train ourselves to do precisely that, and that is exactly what a Zen training is about, what a Buddhist training is about, through the practice of restraint, that skill, that power of being able to let go, and to bow and to just say yes to the circumstances, even when they don't always suit me, then we have nothing to fear from the world. We have nothing to fear from desires that arise either, because they will do karmically. That's just as it is. And if we are involved in a training, I mean, one of the things that we do in the training is suggest to people that they take up a timetable, for example, a time to get up in the morning, a time to go to bed in the evening, time for the Zazen meditation, and one or two other things, but otherwise, we do that, and we follow that 6 days a week, because sooner or later it will come to the point where the alarm goes off in the morning and I don't want to get out of bed, or it's time to go to bed but not right now. That comes up, and the question is, how will that go? Will it be my way, or will it be the Buddha's way? If we're using the timetable as a skillful means as part of our Buddhist practice, which way will it go, my way or the Buddha's way? And learning to let go of my way is a skill, and it's something that has to be trained in, and to a degree we do this already, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to keep a job down. I'm quite sure that from time to time we've all woken up thinking, I really don't want to go into work today. But, if you've got to pay the bills, and have a roof over your head and food to eat for you and your family, then there's no choice really. And that having no choice does make it a lot easier.